Chapter 18. Unlock your inborn creativity. Fully 95% of children tested between the ages of 3 and 5 test out as highly creative. The same children tested again as teenagers test out at about 5% highly creative. What happened to them in the interim? Well, as they went through school, they were taught that if you want to get along, you go along. They learned not to challenge the teacher or suggest unusual ideas. In their attempts to be liked and accepted by their peers, they allowed their creativity to die down, like a fire without fuel. The good news is that creativity is a natural and normal ability, possessed in quantity by virtually everyone. But your creativity is like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. Just like a muscle, if you do not exercise your creativity and stretch it regularly, it becomes weak and ineffective. Your ability to generate ideas must be constantly utilized to be kept in top condition. The most powerful technique for improving your intelligence and increasing your creativity is what I call mindstorming. The way it works is simple. The results that you get will be so amazing as to be life-changing. You begin the mindstorming process by first getting a clean sheet of paper. At the top of this page, you write your goal or problem in the form of a question. The simpler and more specific the question, the better will be the quality of the answers that you generate in response to it. For example, instead of writing a question like, "How could I make more money?" you would write, "How can I double my income in the next 24 months?" Even better, if you are earning $50,000 per year today, your question should be, "How can I earn $100,000 per year by December 31st of a specific year?" Each of your answers should be written using the 3P formula. It should be personal, positive, and in the present tense. In other words, your answers should be written as affirmations or instructions from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. Once you have written your question at the top of the page, you then discipline yourself to generate at least 20 answers to that question. You can write down more than 20 answers to the question, but it is essential in this exercise that you set a goal for a minimum of 20. Your first 3 to 5 answers will be easy. You will quickly come up with answers like work harder, start earlier, stay later, work on higher value tasks. Your next 5 answers will be more difficult. You will have to drill down and dig deeper to come up with less obvious ways but more creative ways to answer your question. Your last 10 answers will be the most difficult of all. Many people find this part of the exercise so difficult that their minds go blank. Their eyes glaze over. They become lightheaded with a rush of blood to their brains that takes place when you begin this process of pumping mental iron. However, no matter how long it takes, especially the first few times you practice this exercise, you must discipline yourself to keep writing until you have at least 20 answers. Sometimes the 20th answer that you generate will be the breakthrough answer that enables you to save yourself thousands of dollars and many hours of hard work. Often, your last answer is the inspired idea that changes your whole life and career. Once you have 20 answers, go back over your list and review your answers. Then, select at least one action that you can take immediately to begin moving yourself more rapidly toward your goal or toward solving the problem. You can multiply the effectiveness of this process by taking the very best answer that you identified in the first list of 20 and writing it at the top of a fresh sheet of paper in the form of a question. Then, see if you cannot generate 20 answers to that question as well. This combination exercise will rev you up mentally, like stepping on the accelerator of a car while the transmission is in neutral. Your mind will sparkle and dance with mental energy and bristle with ideas like the bright lights of a Christmas tree. For example, your first question could be, how can I double my income to $100,000 over the next 24 months? One of your answers could be, I work 2 extra hours each day. You could then transfer this answer to a new sheet of paper and phrase it as a question. What can I do to get 2 extra hours of productive time each day? You can then begin writing 20 different things that you can do to save time, gain time, and spend 2 additional hours on productive work each day. Whatever answer you choose, put it into action immediately. Do something, do anything. The faster you take action on this exercise, the greater and more continuous will be the flow of ideas as you go throughout the day. If you generate these ideas and then do nothing with them, the creative flow will slow down and stop. The very best time to do this exercise is first thing in the morning, right after you have rewritten your goals in your spiral notebook. Each morning, you can take one goal, rewrite it as a question, and then generate 20 answers to that question. You can then immediately get busy and implement one of your answers. You can perform this exercise repeatedly on the same goal, if the goal is big enough and important enough to you. Don't worry about writing down the same answers over and over again. The more you practice this exercise, the more likely it is that you will trigger completely unexpected breakthrough ideas. This may require several days or even weeks of work before the flash of inspiration takes place. You must be patient and determined. It will come. As I mentioned before, successful people are intensely solution-oriented. The fact is that life is a continuous succession of problems and difficulties without end. This river of problems is only interrupted by the occasional crisis, which makes the problem seem small in comparison, at least for a little while. In fact, if you are living a busy life, you will probably experience a crisis of some kind every 2 to 3 months throughout your life. You will have business crises, family crises, financial crises, health crises, and other crises. The problems and crises never stop. They keep coming like the waves of the ocean. The only thing you can control is your responses to these problems and crises, and therein lies the key to your success. Successful people respond effectively to problems. Ineffective people do not. Successful people take a deep breath, relax, and think clearly. They look for the good in every situation. They seek the valuable lesson. Above all, they focus on the solution, on what can be done, rather than what has happened and who is to blame. Just as there is a process for solving mathematical problems, there is a process for solving business and life problems as well. It requires that you approach the business of problem-solving systematically and in an organized fashion. Here are the steps that you can follow. Step 1. Define the problem clearly. A problem properly defined is half solved. It is absolutely amazing how much time is wasted floundering around looking for a solution when no one is quite clear about the problem. Step 2. Ask, what are all the possible causes of this problem? Look for both the obvious and the not-so-obvious causes of the problem. How did it begin? What are its origins? What triggered it in the first place? What is the critical variable that changed to cause the problem to happen in the first place? What assumptions were made that led to the problem? Step 3. Ask, what are all the possible solutions? Avoid the natural tendency of most human beings to leap from a problem definition to a conclusion regarding a solution of some kind. Always ask, what else is the solution? Sometimes the best solution is to do nothing at all. Sometimes the best solution is to gather more information. Sometimes the best solution is to realize that this is not your problem and pass it on to someone else whose responsibility it really is. Step 4. Once you have identified several possible solutions, ask, what must this solution accomplish? The only way you can judge the attractiveness of a solution is to determine in advance what you want the solution to accomplish. You've heard it said that the operation was a success, but the patient died. It's very common for us to initiate a solution and implement it, but the problem is not only not solved, but it is worse than it was before we took action in the first place. Be sure that the solution you select will accomplish the purpose you had in mind when you started on the problem-solving exercise in the first place. Step 5. Once you have decided on the ideal solution, assign specific responsibility, or take responsibility yourself for implementing the solution. Set a deadline for implementation. Set a measure by which you can determine if the solution has been effective. A problem-solving discussion that does not lead to an agreement on a specific solution, accompanied by the assignment of personal responsibility and a deadline, is a problem that will come back over and over again without resolution. Practice this systematic method of dealing with a problem over and over until it becomes a habit of thinking. You will be amazed at how much more effective you become and how much better your results will be using this method. One of the most powerful creative thinking ideas you can practice is called scenario planning. In scenario planning, you play down the chessboard of life and imagine what might happen sometime in the future. Even though the future is largely unknowable, certain trends taking place today will continue into the future. Certain events taking place around you will affect these trends, if not interrupt them in different ways. Completely unexpected events will arise that will require that you change your plans completely. In scenario planning, you ask yourself two questions. First, what are the 3 worst things that could possibly happen in the months or years ahead that would negatively affect my business or my personal life? Write them down. Be brutally honest with yourself. Refuse to wish or hope for the best. For example, imagine that your best customer went out of business or was unable to pay you for the products or services that you had sold to him. What would you do? How would you react? What steps could you take to guard against this eventuality? Next, ask yourself, what are the 3 best things that could possibly happen to me in the months and years ahead? With your answers to either of these questions, you can use mindstorming to prepare yourself for any eventuality. If it's a potential setback, ask yourself, how could we guard against this setback? Then, generate 20 answers to this question. If it's a possible opportunity, ask yourself, how could we increase the likelihood of this opportunity taking place, or take advantage of this opportunity as it is today? Write out 20 answers to this question as well. Each time you ask yourself one of these questions, like an electric spark, you will trigger ideas and insights. The more you think about these key questions, the more you will activate your superconscious mind to give you insights and flashes of inspiration that will enable you to seize opportunities or avoid dangers. One of the most important parts of your personal philosophy should revolve around the development of options. The rule is, you are only as free as your well-developed alternatives. If your goal is to be happy, successful, and free, you must have choices. There must be more than one thing that you can do in every situation, and your job is to think about what that might be.